Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. All right, what's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are picking back up again with the Three Jokers. Yes, this is the conclusion to the Three Jokers storyline, right? Keep in mind that one of the Jokers is dead. The clown Joker is the one that was killed by Jason Todd. The criminal and the comedian are still alive, but in this video, we are going to find out which one of these Jokers is the real Joker, and it's amazing. It's such a great reveal. So initially, this kind of picks up with like Batman and Jason Todd and Barbara Gordon kind of conversing, right, about all the information that they've seen. Right, you know, the information that was kind of brought together, and the fact that the Joker wanted them to find all this stuff, right? The Three Jokers wanted these guys, these three to find all these things that are here. And so one of the things that was kind of established in the last video is that the Jokers are created. Two of these Jokers were artificially created, in the sense that we have one main Joker and then he created the other two. And so the idea is that if that's true, then the question is, which Joker is the real one, right? And that's really what they're trying to figure out. And one of the things that Jason Todd says is, whichever Joker is the real Joker, once I find them, like once I set my sights on him, there'll be no Jokers. I'm gonna kill him because you're too weak to do it, Batman. And when that happens, Bruce Wayne freaks out, right? Like he immediately loses it and starts going after Jason Todd. And the reason why, and this is what's so cool. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is what's so cool. I think this is the best that Jason Todd's been written in years. I'm just gonna say it. But one of the things that Batman gets pissed off about is like, do you really think that I haven't wanted to put a bullet in the brain of the Joker, right? Do you think I really didn't want to kill him after everything that he did, after what he did to you, after what he did to Barbara? Do you really think I didn't want to? And the response of Jason Todd is, but you didn't. Of all the talk that you have, you didn't do it. You wanted to, you could have, but you didn't. And that's one of the things that's interesting, right? Like whenever I make this point about how Batman should kill his villains, people usually kind of default to the slippery slope argument. I never really consider that a good argument. It's a fallacy because one, it assumes that you can't control yourself, right? It assumes that you can't say like, I'm just going to stop here. The problem with the slippery slope argument is that if you apply it to across the board and you say, okay, let's apply this slippery slope argument to anything, then we can say, okay, you should never have a single drink of alcohol in your life, because if you do, it's a slippery slope and you'll become an alcoholic. You should never smoke weed once in your life, because if you do, it's a slippery slope and you'll become a drug addict, right? That's the problem with the slippery slope argument, right? It assumes that Batman couldn't sit down and reason and say, okay, of all the villains that I have, Joker is by and far the worst because he just kills people indiscriminately for reasons that don't make sense to anybody but himself, but has something to do with the fact that he wants me to come and find him. And for every time I capture the Joker, he'll kill 100 people before I get him. So we should just kill him and be done with it. It assumes Batman can't define that reason, right? Batman can't say, okay, killing the Joker, that's basically where it stops, right? I can't justify killing the Penguin or anybody like that because they're criminals, right? They do some pretty shady stuff, but nobody's as bad as the Joker is. For the world's greatest detective, I have a hard time believing he'd be unable to stop at that line of logic. So that's why I never really paid any attention to the slippery slope argument and just kind of ignored it, because it's the argument you make when you can't make any other argument. But the crazy thing about this is that Batman basically says, like, you don't understand, right? Barbara Gordon tries to step in and kind of mediate things a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're both ignoring her. It's Jason Todd and Batman. And at the end of the day, Batman's like, you don't understand. You never have understood. Batman doesn't say it in so many words, but Jason Todd does not understand the effect it had on Bruce Wayne. And the reason why is because they're children to Bruce Wayne. They're his kids. That's just the plain and simple statement of the fact, right? Sure, Barbara Gordon has her dad, right? She's got Commissioner Gordon, but Batman sees them as children, especially Jason Todd, Tim Drake, and Dick Grayson. They're his kids. Like he took them on as wards. By all standards of measurement, he was their father or father figure, and he was there to make sure that no harm befell them. He knew the risk that he was taking here, but he also understood that they needed to have an outlet for their anger and their vengeance and their desire to destroy. They needed a good way to channel it, and the best way to channel it is to, one, allow them to help him on his missions, but two, to curb that desire for revenge into a desire to make people's lives better. And so along the way, Jason Todd kind of seemed to have gotten lost, but Jason Todd was beaten to death. And when Jason Todd came back and he was so angry at Batman because Batman didn't kill the Joker, Batman wanted to, but he didn't, because in his mind, it wasn't the right thing to do. And so the results of this is that you kind of have this little bit of a breakdown, right? That Batman runs over the criminal Joker and says he's very reminiscent of the Joker from the early days, like the old Bob Kane, Bill Finger Joker, right? Like the guy who was just really sadistic, really dark. The clown, of course, they faced at the aquarium and Jason Todd killed him. The comedian is the one where you see him laugh, but there's just something there, right? There's just kind of like this darkness dark sadistic streak behind the laugh and the smile and the eyes that just shows this guy is the worst of them all. He's the absolute worst of the Jokers, the most violent of all the Jokers. And so because of that, it's okay. One of these three is the original Joker. Maybe we already killed him in the aquarium. Maybe it's the criminal mastermind. Maybe it's the comedian, right? Maybe it's the most sadistic of them all. But whichever one it is, one of them is the real Joker. And so the question of Barbara Gordon is, maybe we finally find out. Like maybe we find out the true origin of the Joker. And at the end of the day, like Jason Todd's like, maybe he's just some kind of a nobody, right? But where the question's asked, like Batman, do you know who the Joker is, right? Like, do you know his name? The response of Bruce is no. If I did know, I would have told you already. And so what you end up doing is picking up in the aftermath of Joe Chill being kidnapped, right? We saw that in the last video that we did, in the last comic that we did, that Joe Chill was kidnapped from Blackgate Prison while he was basically going through medical treatment. And Batman immediately wants to see his cell. Now, here's the crazy thing, is Batman's going through these kind of books that were in the cell of Joe Chill. He came across letters that Joe Chill wrote, and none of the letters were ever mailed out, but they were all made out to Bruce Wayne. And so where he basically ends up going to see Reverend Evans, right? The guy who essentially runs the show, kind of, this priest, who helps them find repentance and things like that. He's not the warden, but the person that helps them, basically helps prisoners kind of discover who they really are or allows them to repent or whatever the case is. That when Batman's talking to him, he basically says, he says, no, like these letters were never mailed because they were never finished. He dropped out of school when he was 13. He was doing his best in his classes here, but his learning disabilities slowed him down, right? His inability to read at an effective rate, at an effective level. And that these letters that he wrote were long before he became ill. Because the thought of Batman, and Batman wants to deviate to the idea that Joe Chill is still just a bad person. It comforts him. And that's why Batman says, okay, so the whole reason he wrote these letters is because he got sick and he wanted to repent, right? Like he wanted to make sure he didn't go to hell when he died. And the response of Reverend Evans is no. He wrote those long before he fell ill, a long time before he fell ill. Now, the other part of this is you pick up with Barbara Gordon and you pick up with Dick Grayson while Batman's, inside talking to the Reverend. And Dick Grayson initially kind of hits up Barbara Gordon and says, look, I know I kind of screwed up here, right? Like I've put you guys in a rough position. But at the end of the day, he also tells her, like, we won't ever have anything like that again. And it's kind of an important thing here because it gives us a little bit of a softer side of Jason Todd. And so it's a little bit nuts there because the question the Reverend has is, what do they want with him, right? Like, why take Joe Chill in the first place, right? He's a dying man. Like, he literally has cancer. His days are numbered. And he basically says, like, I'm going to find out, because what he finds among all these letters is one that was obviously written by the Joker. And it basically has a ticket to the Mark of Zorro. And so again, that's at the Monarch Theater. That was the show that Batman and his parents, or Bruce Wayne and his parents, were going to see when they died, or had seen when they died. And so of course, Barbara Gordon and Bruce Wayne and Jason Todd show up here. And this begins what's probably the single greatest point in this whole story, the single greatest moment in this entire story, that when you have him show up, a movie begins to play. And this movie is basically like the comedian Joker talking to Joe Chill and saying, okay, kind of picking up where we left off in the last one, why did you really kill Thomas and Martha Wayne? I've read all your letters, I've read the minister's notes, you've seen the light, right? Your experiences and the suffering that you cause have touched your soul. They've touched your immortal soul, and you have looked to repent all of your sins. But answer something for me. Why did you kill Thomas and Martha Wayne, really? What was the motivation behind it? Now, Batman, of course, ends up kind of making his way through the theater as this movie's playing, and then finally comes across Joe Chill, who's currently being held by the criminal. And this is cool, because the criminal is not being written as like a crazy, goofy guy, right? That was one of the cool things about his character, is he's methodical. He thinks, he focuses, it hurts him to laugh, which I think is probably one of the greatest additions to the Joker mythos ever. But what he says here is their initial intention was to turn Jason Todd into the new Joker. But the problem with that is that Jason Todd lacks sophistication. And then they were going to take Barbara Gordon, but she's got too much heart, right? So he picked the killer. He picked Joe Chill. The intention is to turn Joe Chill into a new Joker. And it's one of the things that's kind of nuts here, is because while this little bit of a segment's happening between criminal Joker and between, Batman, that you've also got like the comedian Joker doing that interview with Joe Chill that they recorded and they're putting on the movie screen. And Joe Chill, to kind of nip this in the bud real quick so we can kind of focus on the meat and potatoes of this, Joe Chill, the reason why he killed Thomas and Martha Wayne is because he was struggling, he was down on his luck, and he saw them and he believed that people who were that rich are the reason why he was that poor. It was their fault. And so he wanted to take some of what they had in order to get himself back on his feet again, right? And the result of that was that once he got there and once he essentially went to go rob them, he suddenly realized that Bruce Wayne's there. And before he knew it, the gun was going off, right? The gun was going off, and the result was that they were basically killed. But it wasn't until after everything that was going on that he realized that Thomas and Martha Wayne, which he already knew who they were, that they were actually people who were using their money to make Gotham City better, that they were looking to work against those individuals who used their wealth to buy politicians, to make laws in their favor, things like that. They were the good guys, and he killed two people who were actually looking to make Gotham better, who could have made his life better. But in his anger and in his selfishness, he kind of categorized them all the same. Everybody out there who's rich is the reason why I'm poor, right? And there really isn't a direct corollary between those two things. It's not necessarily because somebody's rich, you are poor, right? It's not necessarily that way, but Joe Chill saw it that way, and that's what led him to committing the act that he did. Now, that admission will become much more important later on down the line, but Batman initially approaches Joe Chill with the intention of freeing him, and Criminal Joker reveals he's got his whole chest strapped with dynamite. Now, that's a classic move for the Criminal Joker. If you go back and you read the old Bob Kane, Bill Finger stories, right? If you ever get your chance, you can buy them on, I think you can buy them directly from DC, or you can grab them on Comixology. You can go read those super old Batman stories, right? Batman number 1, number 2, number 3. Go read those really old stories with the Joker, and that's the kind of stuff he would do. And so you end up having, Barbara Gordon and Jason Todd facing off against like these kind of Jokerized people, right? These Jokerized individuals who are out there. But as Barbara Gordon's facing off against a couple of them, they both get shot. And when she initially believes it's Jason Todd, she turns around and it's the comedian Joker, the one who shot her, right? The one who shot her from Killing Joke, still wielding that same camera that he had. His outfit's different, but he's still got the same camera. And he's like, time for you to smile. And so it's like a great tribute to the Killing Joke, right? It's like an amazing tribute to the Killing Joke. And so the motivation behind creating a new Joker, and even the motivation behind the creation of these Jokers, is revealed when the criminal tells Batman he wants to be more. He needs to be everything to Batman. The biggest issue that he has with Batman is he's not his main focus. Now that's a common point that Joker's had over the years. It's not something Geoff Johns is making up on the spot. That's been the motivation behind Joker for years, for eons and eons and eons, that he wants to be the one that Batman focuses on. He wants to be the center of Batman's life. He almost, in kind of a sadistic and screwed up way, sees Batman as like a lover. It's a dissatisfaction, right? The fact that he doesn't have Batman focusing on him in that way leaves him dissatisfied. And so initially Batman's response is, Joe Chill's a sick, dying old man. Of what use would he be to you? And that's when Criminal Joker says, I'm willing to bet that this little bath will put him into remission. I'm willing to bet if we dunk him in this water, that it's going to cure his cancer. It'll make him insane, but it'll cure his cancer, and he will be one of us. And that's kind of the crazy thing here, right? That's kind of the crazy situation. Because right now, this Criminal Joker defines the concept of the Joker as an undefined chaos. We're just absolute chaos. There's no rhyme and reason to us being like, you don't see us as like a form and a function, right? You don't see us as we truly are, that we are the antithesis to you. Instead, you see us as just like crazy guys who implement some schemes and do some things, and all hell pops off for a little while, and then things go back to normal, right? Like you capture us and then we go to jail, and that's basically it. But I need to be more. We as a Joker need to be more. And so at that point, like literally Joker pulls out a Tommy gun, goes to shoot Batman. Of course, Batman dodges out of the way, but in the process, the ropes start to snap. The Joker falls, the lighter falls out of his hand, and ends up landing in this vat of chemicals, which of course turns this great big huge chemical thing on fire. And so in that moment, when Criminal Joker goes to fight Bruce Wayne, you've also got the comedian Joker facing off against Barbara Gordon. And it's just kind of like, I haven't had this much fun in a long time, and we're just getting started. And when part of the roof begins to collapse, and it doesn't quite kill Barbara Gordon then, but when part of the roof starts to collapse, the comedian ends up bailing out, right? He ends up taking off. And so you've got the Criminal Joker facing off against Batman. He goes to cut the wire so that Joe Chill will fall inside the burning chemical bath, right? Like the water has to be on fire in order for it to fully affect, right? In order for it to fully take effect. But he cuts him loose, and then Batman saves Joe Chill. And that's a crazy thing, is the criminal was not relying on Batman saving Joe Chill, that he was kind of relying on Batman's hatred of Joe Chill to just let him die, right? Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that Batman saves Joe Chill because he's just like, I don't kill, I don't let anybody die. I think it's really more of Batman saves Joe Chill because he doesn't want to deal with another Joker. I think that's really what kind of goes on here. But of course, he ends up swinging back into action, going after the criminal again, and then once the criminal's temporarily knocked out, Joe Chill kind of looks at Batman and is like, I know who you are. They talk about you in Blackgate, and you know what I did in this place. Are you going to kill me? And it's a little bit ambiguous here, right? It's a little bit ambiguous here. It's one of these things where Joe Chill almost kind of wants Batman to kill him. I guess it's not really ambiguous. He says, I deserve it, but it's almost kind of like he wants Batman to kill him. But the cool thing about this is Joe Chill is exceedingly remorseful for his actions. And that's an important thing, because Batman's initial response is like, no, I'm not going to kill you. And that's when Joe Chill's like, I deserve it. I'm truly sorry for what I did. This combined with Batman's knowledge of the fact that Joe Chill had written these letters before he became sick indicates that he really is remorseful. He's not remorseful because he's on his last days. He really does feel terrible about what he did, because Joe Chill, 1, turned the life of Bruce Wayne upside down, and 2, doomed Gotham. He made Gotham what it is by getting rid of Thomas and Martha Wayne and allowing corruption among the police and among politicians and among the ultra wealthy to run supreme. He made Gotham the way that it is. He single-handedly screwed up the whole town. And so it's kind of crazy because, of course, the bricks start to fall and then Batman rescues him again. And, you know, he says thank you, and Batman's like, you're welcome. But in that moment, the criminal pops back up again, right? And he says, like, I'd hope to extend this game more, but now we all go together, right? And gets ready to pull this stick of dynamite, and he's shot by the comedian, right? The comedian shoots him in the head and says, and then there was one. Take me away, Bats. Arrest me and take me away. Now, the big question here is, why even kill him? Why even kill him in the first place? Why kill the criminal? Well, the reason for this comes after Barbara Gordon and Jason Todd share a moment where Jason Todd's kind of pissed about Batman just kind of sitting him back to the Batcave, that he also asked Barbara Gordon, is there really a chance about us, right? Because remember, like, they shared a kiss, and Barbara's like, no. You know, he gets friend zoned basically. He's like, you'd make a really good friend, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I don't feel that way about you, right? He just basically gets shut down. And so, of course, you know, the two of them end up going their separate ways temporarily, but Batman starts having a conversation with the Joker. And the Joker says, like, he's literally, see now, after all of that drama, don't you feel better, Bruce, right? Bruce Wayne, Barbara Gordon, Jason Todd, you know I know, but I don't care. I'm not going to tell anybody, right? The world can never know your true name. You might stop doing this if I do, right? If I tell people who you really are, right? You might quit. And that really kind of solidifies a lot of what was established in Scott Snyder's New 52 Batman run, that the Joker doesn't care about Bruce Wayne's identity as Batman, that what he cares about is the cat and mouse game, that they chase each other around. They just go round and round and round in circles. The funny thing about this is when Batman asks the question, what is it that you want, right? The Joker says, what do I want? Certainly not what the others did. The clown, your troubled Robin, put a bullet in. All he wanted to do was laugh at the suffering of others. How common, right? And the criminal, that old man, was so delusional. This whole great big idea of creating a better Joker, well, that's just lunacy, right? A defined Joker, one with a name and identity, that ruins the very definition of me. That's why I regret making him. Or he says, does he regret making me? The reality of this, if I'm really a betting man here, this is the original Joker. The comedian is the original Joker. And this comes in a couple different ways. Like when Batman says, what's the punchline? The Joker says, that's the point. There's no final twist, right? Not until I decide to put my knife into your heart. But he says the criminal was absolutely wrong. I am chaos, right? I'm the devil. I'm nothing and everything to you. The Joker is not the one who's broken. It's Batman who's broken. All of this was basically my plan. Batman was broken by a greater pain than any of us could ever inflict on you. And so I convinced them that making Joe Chill the new Joker would be the best idea, right? The man who destroyed Gotham, the man who destroyed you, making him into the Joker, into like another Joker, would crush you, right? It would destroy you on some level in a way that I never really could. And the irony behind all this is he says, like, you saved the man who killed your parents, who sent the city literally spiraling down into despair. This man apologized to you, which is exactly what you needed to hear. And so because of me, your greatest wound has been healed. And so now I can be your greatest pain. I will cut you. I'll hurt you. I'll destroy your life in every conceivable way that I possibly can. Because now I am your only real focus. You dealt with Joe Chill. You dealt with that pain and that struggle and that anger that you've been carrying around all your life. That wound is now healed. Now there's the wounds that I can create. I can become your source. I can become your source of anger and your source of pain. I can become the thing that you hate the most in this world. I am now your main focus. That was the whole plan behind this, right? That was the whole basis behind this. It's an amazing reveal. But Bruce Wayne, of course, goes to visit Joe Chill and basically accepts Joe Chill's apology, right? The two of them actually end up holding hands, which is a massive moment. And he actually holds the hand of Joe Chill as he dies. And so while Batman didn't necessarily tell Joe Chill in that alleyway, I forgive you, this is Bruce Wayne appearing to Joe Chill as Joe Chill needed for Bruce Wayne to appear to him and say, I forgive you for what you've done. Forgiveness is what Bruce Wayne needed to heal himself, and it's what Joe Chill needed to finally be able to come to terms with what it was that he did. Joe Chill, of course, dies and he ends up being buried, and then Bruce Wayne ends up traveling to Alaska. And he basically says, he kind of has this little bit of a statement, the world can never know your true name. You end up having this bit of a conversation that Batman has with Alfred. Now, there is also a letter that Red Hood leaves for Barbara Gordon and says that, like, I want to make a change, right? But I can't do that without you. Basically, like, it's a confession of love. It's a confession of love that he needs Barbara Gordon. The problem is, like, the letter falls off the wall and ends up being swept away by just some random guy, so she never gets the letter. And Jason Todd says, I'll never bring it up. If you never say anything to me, then I'll assume you tore the letter up and threw it away, and I'll never ask you about it. If you never come to me and talk about it, I'll never come to you. And I'll assume that if you never came to me and talked to me about it, that you didn't want to be a part of my life in that way, that you didn't want to love me in that way, that you didn't want us to become something. It's actually tragic, right? It's insanely tragic. tragic, right? Because if I'm being honest, as weird as it is that Robert Gordon and Jason Todd kiss because they're kind of like adopted brother and sister, I guess I could kind of ship them, see them going together. I don't really know. But Batman ends up having a conversation with Alfred. And the crazy thing about this is you basically have Bruce Wayne talking to Alfred and saying, I don't mean to sound the way that people think I do, but like, I'm Batman, right? I knew the Joker's name 1 week after we first met. I've known his identity the entire time. And then you get these little moments, these little scenes that come from the Killing Joke. And basically, like, you end up having the wife of the Joker, where in the Killing Joke, the explanation to the Joker's wife was that he died. The reality of this is that it looks as though that's not true, that she was actually sent away because it looked like she would never, ever, ever be free of the Joker. How the nature of these two guys consolidates with the way they were depicted, right? Because they refer to the Joker as like sir, different things like that. Doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense, but anyway, she's basically talking to cops, and you end up having her basically escorted away. Essentially, it looked like her death was faked, right? But she ends up getting away from the Joker before he became the Joker, and she ends up traveling to Alaska, where she's been this entire time with her kid that she's raising. And so what this points to, and what I'm going with this, is the real Joker. Out of all three of these guys, the real Joker is the Killing Joke Joker. The criminal Joker and the clown Joker, they were created by the comedian, right? They were created by him, and that they're not actually Jokers. They were just two random guys out there who, for whatever reason, the comedian Joker chose. So the comedian is the true Joker, right? The origin of the Killing Joke is the actual origin of the Joker, right? And it makes sense. That's the one that fans go with the most, but that's where things stand right now. Killing Joke Joker, that story is the original origin of the Joker. He is the original Joker, right? So with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. Now we'll catch you all later. Peace.